Yeah, I mean, it's something, maybe a learning moment for junior designers, both freelance and in-house, that it's, for me at least, I always was scared to ask too many questions because I didn't want to come across as someone who just doesn't get it or waste time of the stakeholder/client. So I would rush to this point of, yeah, I get it, I'll get to work, But then you have this big risk of what I just told you, just misaligning.
You're officially live.
We are officially live, exactly. I mean, this is just an experiment.
So Nick, it is not Halloween. However, I think today is going to be a very interesting episode. We're going to talk about horror stories in tech, or in more specifically in the design space. I think we're going to be sharing some horror stories that we've personally experienced. I'm very curious. I'm very curious to do a deep dive in both our stories that we can share.
Right.
But maybe to kick things off, I would love to hear if you have maybe it's just one horror story, or maybe it's many. I'm curious to learn about yours.
I know a very interesting one. Let's call it interesting, from the beginning of my career. So fresh out of school, no job experience, spending months trying to get an interview even. And at some point I had an interview. I borrowed my mom's car, drove all the way over there to this company's office, sat in the waiting room for 20 minutes, was invited in. And this hiring manager, like 3 minutes in, he interrupts me. He's like, Nick, let's just stop here. You know what? You're never going to make it. And then he's telling me a whole rant of things and reasons why I'm a terrible designer and blah, 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 blah. So, 20 minutes driving, 20 minutes waiting, and 3 minutes in the interview. 5 minutes later, I'm in the car again. I'm like, whoa, what just happened? And I was on my way back home. And that's the very first one I thought of. And it actually is the first one because it was so early days for me.
What was that? Like, what happened? So it was part of the interview and they kind of stopped halfway through. Like, what was the conversation around? What was the job there?
It was, it was very early days. So it was a mix of, visual design and a bit of UX. It mostly was a creative agency, doing all sorts of stuff, social media design, with also websites. So it's very, UX maturity, not so high. It's one of those companies where they were like, well, we need to do something with UX. So let's just hire a UX designer. And my visual skills weren't so strong back then, just fresh out of school, more UX focused and visual design focused. So I actually think, looking back at this moment now, I just think there was a big mismatch. I was like, hey, UX, and they were like, hey, visual. And I showed my more or less visual skills, the little bit of skill that I did have then. And it just didn't fit, I think.
Did you feel the disconnect, or like it wasn't a good fit on your end, or it was really a shock?
It was a shock for sure. Yeah, for me, it was a big shock. I was so, fresh and inexperienced. I just didn't know. I really was stunned in the end. I was like, whoa. I mean, and I believed him for a moment, back then, because it was I think my second ever interview. So I was just so hyped to even get an interview. I think many of our listeners will be able to relate to that. After just months of trying and sending letters and trying to get through the door somewhere, I was like, wow, this is going to be it. I'm going to get a job, going to move out, going to build my career. Let's go. And then 5 minutes later, I'm in the car again. It's just completely kicked out the door. So it was really silly. Yeah. Can you top that story?
Maybe I'll make it a slow burn. I think I have two top of mind. I'll share maybe a similar story. I think I had just graduated, or I had graduated from my 2D, 3D animation course, in hopes to get into the film industry or the gaming industry. I had mentioned before that I couldn't find a job, but then my dad, he had a connection with a printing shop. They would do like banner ads, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'd gone for the interview. It wasn't even an interview. It was like, is this something you've been interested? Like, here, go to work, kind of thing. So I was kind of thrown into the software. I had to kind of set everything up. And to be like transparent, I had zero print experience whatsoever. Like I had not learned graphic design or anything at that point. I was just like, I liked visual stuff and I'd learned special effects for movies. So like that skill did not translate. So I was looking at this software and it was getting into Pantones and printing, which I had no idea about. I'd fumbled with the software for like 20 to 30 minutes. And I was like, I don't know where any of these toggles, settings, or switches. Like, this is, I don't know, man. I don't know what this is. I think I said, I don't think I can do this. This is not for me. It was like the immediate like dark cloud, like, oh, this is not at all what I've learned. This is not what I can do. And this is probably not the right fit for me. I mean, good on my dad for suggesting and kind of pulling his connections. But at that point in my career, probably even now, I don't think I can do print design. I don't know, like outside of like actual print, like connecting to the actual printer itself versus sending a file to be printed. That's a world that I've never explored.
No, it's a very different world. But what did you tell them? Like, did you actually tell them like, no, sorry, or?
Yeah, I don't think I can, because I felt it on their side also. It's like, do you think you can do this kind of thing? I told them about my background, and there was a clear no. I didn't learn any of the skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
So it was both of us like, well, let's see if I can figure this out. And in the end, the answer was no.
Big capital letters, exclamation point, no.
No, absolutely not.
And because of it, of course, also the only designer. Founders were, from a technical background. So in a startup, as you probably know, you have this, of course, I can do this mentality. Because there's no money to hire someone else. If you are the designer at the startup, you do all the design stuff. So they were scheduled to go to an event, and they wanted to have some flyers just to leave a stack somewhere or just give to people. So naturally, I was like, well, let's just make it. I'll design it. I'll print it. I'll find a shop to print it and to press it even, and then it will all be good. So I didn't have any knowledge about it either. So I didn't know, for example, that RGB colors on the screen, there are way more of them compared to CMYK in print. So we had this really cool brand color, like this, some sort of pink hue, and we printed, spent a lot of money. Flyers came in, and they came in orange because the printer looked for the nearest color that's the most like the thing you can display on the screen, but not in print. So that was a horror moment because I was responsible and we were, tight on cash as an early day startup. And then I had to explain why that happened and, get a second run of prints, and it delayed us and it was expensive, blah, 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 blah. So that was a big mistake on my end, and a learning moment also of all the differences between those two color schemes.
I think that's the only way you learn that, right? Like,
yeah,
you learn RGB, and then there's a difference between CMYK. Like, how many times does someone print in their life when straight out of school? Like, I imagine that's not like in your art program. Did you learn print at all?
Very minor. We did have one subject on here's InDesign, learn how it works, and at the end you will make a magazine. You'll make a little book. And you print it, and then it's all good. Everyone got an A because they finished the thing.
Right.
It's not like that kind of grading. Like, did you finish? Yes, okay, pass. Did you not finish? Redo it. So very like high level. I had no idea. But now, still, like, that's now well over 10 years ago. I will never forget it. So what you're saying is very true. You learn by falling on your face, and I really fell on my face a few stories down on the pavement. Heard a lot, but now I will always check if I can actually print the thing I have on my screen.
Yeah, it reminds me when I had to do I worked at a startup where I had to do not only like UX design, but also web design, and then also print design as well. For like, we were selling a physical product, and I had to design all the packaging, and then the printer that we sourced had like you generally print in batches. So like you can't just do what generally, sometimes depending on the printer, you can do like a test print. Like here's the file, print out one, and then send us a picture of it. And so I can see if it's good, and then you can print the rest. We were working with a printer that like, there was no test print. A test print was 10,000 kind of thing. So like that, not only that was probably my first actual doing packaging design experience, but also dealing with the constraint of dealing with a printer who doesn't do test prints.
Right. So you have to get it right instantly.
I have to get it right the first time. I think we had switched to another printer that will allow us to do like one test print on a single sheet.
Yeah.
But even there, it was like we would get, like, it would send the file, they would print it out, and then I would get an iPhone shot of the printout. So it's not even like I'm getting a detailed visual feedback on like, oh, is it 1-to-1 between what I designed on my iMac versus what got printed out? I have like this pixelated angled view of the sheet that I have to go yay or nay, which is super frustrating and scary. It's like, sure, that looks great. I mean, I didn't say it wasn't my thumbs up only. It was like, hey, I'm like, team, do we think this is good? Yes or no? So it's not only sitting on my shoulders. They have that $5,000 print job on my shoulders, but the print world is so, it's scary. So I get it.
There's no undo button like you have in Figma, or commit you can run back in code. You know, it's printed, it's there, it's resources spent. And then packaging, you know, it's a whole different game also compared to something you design in software, because it's 3D. You can pick it up, put it somewhere. You have to think about, like, if it's in a store somewhere, there's light on top of it and shadowing, and it sits on a shelf compared to next to other things. Like, there's so much thinking going on there, which is, it's a whole different game. So, it's good to hear you have the same struggle with print. You know, it's not just me.
No, I've been historically, I don't have the experience, or I was never taught. So it's a world that I'm not going to dip my toes in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have another one. And this is really a freelancer mistake, or maybe something you can do in-house as well. But someone I worked with before, very in a good way, like, he only had like small requests for me. You know, hey, this thing looks off. Can you help me? Can you redesign it? Can you log into WordPress or Figma for us and just clean this up? And then I would spend 2 hours, and then that's done. And then at the end of the month, I would keep track of all the things I did during the month, and then send an invoice for hours spent. It's that kind of client. Like, it's a small but fun client. And then at some point he comes to me like, okay, we are going to do a landing page for an event. We have already a visual design from like a previous event. Can you update this event or can you update the design to work with a new event? Here's the input, like here's the dates and the speakers and all that kind of stuff. I was like, okay, sure. That's, like medium-sized work compared to the work we've been doing so far. Let's say about 4 or 5 hours. He's like, okay, done, sold. Turns out it was just way bigger. Like, I was dropped into his team. I was, required to join meetings and think about stuff. And it turns out just to be so much bigger than what I got from the messaging that we did around that request. So there I was, I made time in my schedule for about 4 or 5 hours, but then it turns out it would take days and I didn't have the time. So I had to rush another project, rush his project, and didn't do a good job, lost 2 clients because of it. And I never spoke to the guy again, just because I didn't understand a request or I didn't ask enough questions to make sure that it wasn't, bigger than I anticipated. Before we continue, if you're feeling stuck in your design career, or if you feel like you're doing solid work while no one really notices, we've got a bunch of extra stuff on our website.
We're building a community for product designers to actually learn, grow, and get hired, not just scroll and collect more inspiration.
There's also articles, checklists, and courses.
All based on real-world experience from both of us. No fluff, just what actually works.
Check out designtablepodcast.com. The link is in the description. Not a good move.
Yeah, I mean, it's like learning lessons. Like it's you learn, I guess, and this probably more now. Like, it's, can I trust this person? And as soon as that trust is eroded, it's hard to get back. So it's constantly having to show up, doing what you say you need to do, understanding the brief, and then making sure you execute every time, or else, unless you've built out the relationship, like you got to bat 100% all the time.
True. Yeah, I mean, it's something, maybe a learning moment for junior designers, both freelance and in-house, that it's, for me at least, I always was scared to ask too many questions because I didn't want to come across as someone who just doesn't get it or waste time of the stakeholder/client. So I would rush to this point of, yeah, I get it. I'll get to work, but then you have this big risk of what I just told you, just misaligning on, hours required or things to deliver. And then the result then is just way worse compared to asking one or two extra questions. So now I ask more. And if a client is annoyed by it, it's probably not a good fit then. Because now I just like to ask a few more questions just to make really sure we are on the same page.
Yeah, because it's a two-way street. Like you should both be confident. Like you should be confident in them as a employer, and they should be. Yeah, it should be a two-way street. It's like it's a relationship at the end of the day. Yes, they're paying you for a thing, but like you should feel comfortable doing the thing they ask you to do.
Yeah, that's it. And it's going way better now. Now I'm prepping for a moment when the twins are born. So I'm going to do 3 days a week of work for the rest of the year. But now, more or less like 1 or 2 weeks before they arrive, I already worked down to 3 days a week. So now I have a bit of time left over, and I just feel so much clarity to really give clients all the attention they deserve, So it does make you think, like it's probably better to be 90% booked of your time compared to 100. Because if you're booked 100% of the time, you are just like, you cannot end up in a traffic jam or with internet issues or, anything that will take you above 100%, because then you're rushing things. So it does make me think for the rest of, let's say next year, like up until what level I want to fill up my bookable time.
Yeah, that's fair. Or work faster. And then it'll be 60%.
Yeah. I'm not a 10x designer just yet.
That doesn't exist. Well, maybe it does. Who knows? The definition is blurry for me. I think I have one left in the chamber. Yes, I had discovered that the company that I was working in-house, was sourcing different UX studios without my knowledge.
With you still being there? And
with me still being there. So I was the only designer at the company. And sometimes when you're looking for, I was looking to book like a one-on-one with my manager. And I think in Google Meet, you get to see like what meetings they have. So you can align like what are the gaps kind of thing. But you also get to see depending if the privacy setting is off, you get to see what meetings they have booked.
Right.
And yes. I noticed that there was a couple of agencies that looked familiar to me because I know them pretty well. Some of them were in Montreal where I live. And I discovered that they were looking for the UX agencies to fix some of the issues or to work on the product itself while I was there, which was unbeknownst to me. So that was a bit stressful. I was like, your head kind of goes in different directions. Like, why are they looking? Am I not doing a good enough job? Should I bring this up? Should I not bring this up? How should I approach this?
Yeah.
Which is really like scary feel. It's like, why are they, first of all, I'm the only UX person there. So like replacing me with a agency is a move that can be done versus like if you have a fully fledged team there. So yeah, a bit scared, a bit hurt as well, since they didn't come to me first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have questions.
Yes.
I imagine you had questions back when you just discovered that as well, like you just said. But it could be harmless. It could be that they just want to speed up the UX process. Just there's more on your plate than you can handle as an individual, not because you're not good enough, but just because you only have X amount of time to work on things. Or the negative version, they just don't like you. They want to, sell the UX work to someone else and just get rid of you. But then regardless of the direction it's going into, it's probably better to have communicated this with you before they started this, right? 100%. So the main question is, what happened next? Because I'm very curious. So what were their reasons? And
I brought it up. Like, I was like, all right, I brought it up to my manager. I'm like, hey, I noticed when I was booking, like, it was very transparent. I noticed when I was booking a session with you that you had on your calendar sessions with these agencies. I was curious if the reason why, is there something that I'm not doing correctly, et cetera, et cetera. And what they said, like, yeah, we're just looking, exploring. There was a certain level of design debt that had been accrued. They're trying to look at it, which that's what they said. I'm like, okay, cool. And then they sent over the recordings for the previous sessions, and I was able to kind of go over them. But in the end, that is one of the jobs that I was let go of. So like, it was the end. The end state was I was let go. I don't think I was replaced by like the agency. I think it was just another designer or two designers that had come in, but there was writings on the wall, I think.
Yeah. So when you were let go, was it relatively short period of time after this whole thing happened?
I think it was like a month or two after.
Right. I think they wanted to let go of you sooner, but then with you discovering that, they felt it was probably nicer to just let you forget about it for a while and return back to normal and then let you go.
Well, yeah, and it lined up with like the hire and fire. No, it's if in-house, there's generally like at the end of the year, like I think Jan or Feb, there's the fire and promotion period. It's like happens like in the last thing. So it's like budget season, and this happens across most tech companies. It's like you either get a promotion or it lines up with like your end of year review. So they review everyone's work. If you excel, they'll get a promotion. If you're doing good, that'll just like, maybe it'll give you a slight increase. And then they get rid of the dead weight. So I think it was part of that dead weight.
Yeah. I mean, that makes you think and scratch behind your ears like, what happened? Like, why me? I imagine.
Yes, 100%. I got a vague answer, so I had no idea. It's not a fit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not you, it's us. Blah blah blah. All I can say is, look at you now. The big success that you are.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I was let go of politics reasons once too. I worked at a large international Dutch company, and they had clients around the world. And they asked me if I, well, it was a question, but you know the type of question where it's not really a question, like they ask you, but they expect a certain answer. They expect you to say yes and be honored to be considered. They wanted me / asked me to go to a client in Asia. So just for new listeners, I'm in the Netherlands, so Asia literally means the other side of the world. They wanted to go there, do some UX research and support a client like on site over there. And then for many people, that's like this wonderful opportunity to travel the world and that kind of stuff. But it didn't fit my situation at home at that time. So I said no to them. Family comes first for me. And they were like, they said, okay, but you could see from body language and everything that they weren't happy at all. And then next January, like you said, I came back from my Christmas break. I came to the daily stand-up meeting and I was like, hello guys, I'm happy to be back. Can't wait to get started on all the cool challenges that we have on our list this quarter. And then it was like total silence. And the product owner told me like, well, didn't they tell you? Turns out during the Christmas break, they kicked me out, and I didn't know.
They didn't tell you.
Yeah. It turns out my manager. So the product owner and manager were different people. The product owner told my manager, and my manager forgot to tell me. So I was all rested and energized and happy to continue. And then I was like, And like the same day, like 1 hour after the meeting, I was, improving and refreshing my CV.
That's that didn't they tell you line probably. That one hurt me just hearing it.
Yeah. I mean, it's what in my experience, and then I not want to be negative or anything, but I think it's also part of working in a large company where a manager has to tell another manager about someone in the team of someone else. Like there's so many different layers you have to go through, and there's just noise on the communication line and things go wrong. People forget things, and then things like that happen. But it did add another reason to my list of reasons to finally go freelance. So, in the end, I'm almost grateful for it happening. I was like, that's it. I'm sick of it. I've had enough. I'm not going to search for a job anymore. I'm going to go freelance. I had this whole almost angry energy level over me, So all good in the end, I think.
Yeah, I think I think we said it before, but like the happy path is never what makes a truly great designer. It's those battle wounds of war, and I think that's the purpose of this episode. Is like those horror stories are what make us the designers that we are today, and also like we learn things in every one of those moments.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And we've had some episodes where it almost feels like a therapy session, and this one's also a little bit like that because none of the horror stories told by any of us resulted in the other one being like, yeah, they were right, you suck. I felt a lot of support.
Yeah, no, they were never right. It's always, well, if we're being pragmatic, there wasn't right moment for both parties back then.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
So there's always a better situation, a better fit for. It may not be like this is a message probably for junior designers. Like it may be the case that it's like it's not that you were not good; it's just that you weren't a good fit for that particular place or company or time.
True. Yeah, I mean that's probably smart to end the episode on some specific takeaways. Not being the right fit is a good one. An extension of that is that I really want to say is that it goes both ways. Like you weren't a good fit for them, but they were also not a good fit for you. I know it feels endless at times with all the job searching and all the rejections and all the being ghosted. And for me, it's easy to say from a position of being, having enough projects to work on. But in the end, when you get your job, it's a good moment to look back and be like, yeah, I'm happy I didn't get a job back then because compared to what I have now, it's way worse.
100%.
So, yeah, and keep saying no. Also a good thing. Like juniors want to please, they don't want to upset managers. But I spoke to a manager today, and they shared a screenshot of feedback they got on an idea, and they said, "This is really great. They really get it, but I also wish they didn't agree with me all the time."
It's a hard one. You don't learn that early. It's like you're so thankful to have something that like you're afraid to say no and to push back.
Yeah. I still have that sometimes a little bit. Yeah. But they pay you for your expertise. They don't pay you to say yes. That's a different career.
Yes, 100%. And that's not me just saying yes because I'm scared of you.
No. There's a big pool of water between us. So I think the both of us were very safe.
So stay positive. All right, that's another episode in the bag.
Yeah, great episode. By the way, if you're stuck second guessing your work or trying to figure out your next move, drop a question in the comments or leave a review. We might actually feature you in one of our future episodes.
And if you got any value from this episode, hit subscribe wherever you're listening. It helps more than you think.
You can find everything else, resources, articles, and more at designtablepodcast.com.
Thanks for being here.
See you next time.